It was 1973 in Miami, in the Yellow House. My little sister Amber and I were standing on the front porch holding hands, and we could see in the distance there was this little speck of brown, and it was coming to the house. And it was getting closer and closer, and so I yelled, "Mommy, he's coming!" And my mom walked out to the front porch, and her face was serious, and her lips were pursed. And she looked at me and she said, "Autumn, you know the number, right?" And I shook my head. And she said, "All right, you can call in an emergency, but do not tell him the number." And I said, "Mom, I wouldn't ever tell him the number. I didn't tell him last time." She said, "I know. It was probably the woman in the office. But just remember, it's a secret." We had lived in the Yellow House for about 8 or 9 months. And in that time, we had 4 phone numbers, 3 of which were unlisted. And we don't really know exactly how, but it didn't really matter. Being unlisted didn't stop the phone calls. They came in the middle of the night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and we always jolted awake. And years later, my mom told me the details of those phone calls. But, they don't really matter. Even as a kid, if a phone call comes in the middle of the night, it's not going to bring good news. And the phone calls in our house, they always ended with yelling and screaming and tears and inevitably a phone being hung up on the hook. Amber, she squeezed my hand, and I saw that little brown speck that was coming toward our house was now a full-fledged car, and it whipped its way into the driveway. And in one smooth move, with the engine still idling, my father, he snuffed out his cigarette in the ashtray. He opened up the car door. He blew a puff of smoke. He put 2 fingers in his mouth. He let out a whistle, and our little yellow dog, Tippy, while he ripped out of the house, he came running up into his arms of my dog. My dad, he picked up that dog, and he said, "Ah, good boy, did you miss me? Did you miss me?" And I was waving my arms, and I ran to my father, and I gave him a great big hug. I said, "I missed you, Daddy." And Amber was sitting there on the floor of the patio now with her arms wrapped around my mom's ankles. My mom, she unwrapped Amber, and she picked her up, and she picked up the suitcase, and she walked toward the car, and she handed them both to my dad. As my dad was settling them both in the back seat, my mom called me over, and she gave me a hug. And in my ear, she whispered, "The phone number's a secret." And I nodded. I climbed into the front seat. The footwell was piled high with crushed beer cans and old empty Marlboro Red boxes, so I sat crisscross applesauce in the front seat just like an Indian princess. My Nana always said the Cherokee blood ran through our veins. And every time we headed out with my dad on a weekend like that, it started out like a holiday. Why the windows were rolled down and the wind, why it whipped through our hair, and he cranked up Y100. He pulled into the parking lot of Great Value and announced, "We're gonna have a picnic." And then we went inside and he told Amber and me to go over to the toy section. We were to pick out 2 decks of cards and we could each pick out a toy. And my dad, he'd meet us at the cash register. So looking there and the turnstiles, our eyes, why they lit up. There were Chinese jump ropes and cap guns. Amber pointed and squeezed my hand, and so I took down a Flatsy doll, which is a flat baby doll that has posable arms and legs. And for myself, I got a magic slate. Why, you could draw on it over and over again with a little red stylus. All you had to do was lift up the thin plastic veil on the top. We met my dad at the cash register, and he had picked out a bachelor's picnic. It was Vienna sausages and smoked oysters in a can and sardines and mustard sauce and saltine crackers and a 12-pack. And there was a jar of dill pickles. I looked down at Amber. She was smiling and squeezing my hand, and I said, "I told you, he remembers. You're always going to be our pickle dilly." And then we went out to picnic, and we sat on the hood of my dad's car. Now, on our way out of Great Value, we stopped by the Coke machine, and I got a Pepsi in a big, tall bottle, and Amber got a Yoo-Hoo. And when we got to the feeder road by the Miami International Airport, That's where we had that picnic, right there on the roof of the Chrysler. Now, my dad, he was a civil engineer, and he could design roads, but before that, he flew airplanes in the United States Army. And behind his authentic aviator glasses, he narrated the scene. All righty, girls, this one here, she's a beaut. She's a big one, a 747. Looks like she's just been cleared for takeoff. Oh, she's going, going, going. She's up and gone. We got to my dad's place through the lounge so that he could say hi to his friend Julie, who made the drinks. She had 3 bar stools up front with our names on them, so she said, but I never did see our names. We were regulars, so we didn't have to give her our order. There were Shirley Temples for Amber and me, and for my dad, there was an extra dry martini with extra ice and the olives. Amber got all the cherries, and I got all the olives. We got into my dad's apartment, which was really just an extended stay motel. It was one room with 2 twin beds in the corner that served as both couches and our beds. There was a kitchenette, and there was a closet that my dad used for Amber's bed. He put a crib mattress there on the floor. We set out the cards and we played memory, and Amber beat us hour after hour. And by 9 o'clock, I knew it was her bedtime, so I tucked her in, and her little flatsy doll lay on the pillow next to her. And then Daddy turned on the TV and he watched Mission Impossible, and I doodled on my magic slate. And during the commercials, in between beers and cigarettes, he started asking me questions about school. And I told him that I was a really good reader and that I was getting really good at math. And then he started quizzing me, and I said, yeah, I know the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Yes, I know the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see? Yes, I know my address. It's 6446 South Mitchell Manor Circle. Yes, I know my zip code, 33156. Yes, I know my phone number, 235-4190. And the game stopped. And in my head, I started yelling at myself. I was so stupid. And I saw my dad stumble toward the kitchen and get a pencil. And there on the wall, he wrote 235-4190 on the wall. I loved my dad, but I never trusted him again.